Well, hey friend, thank you so much for joining us once again right here on the Bible Tract Echoes radio broadcast. Greatly appreciate the fact that you would invest your time to be with us today. We've got an exciting week. Now, I know you're thinking, you're saying, Brother Micah, you say that just about every week. You're excited all the time. Well, today I truly, really am, and I think I really am all the time. But today, joining me in the studio, I'm going to introduce a special guest in just a moment. Those of you that have been long-time listeners to the program, you've probably heard this gentleman's voice here and there, but it's been a while. And so I have the privilege, the honor of introducing to you and our new listeners, Brother Austin Merriott. Now, Austin Merriott holds a couple of different titles, both in our family and then also in the ministry of Bible Tracts Incorporated. He serves as youth pastor at the First Baptist Church of Dwight in Dwight, Illinois. He is the lead designer at BTI. He is the operations manager. He's also the uncle to my children. He's my brother-in-law, and he's my friend. And I'm so glad to have him in the studio today. If you have not listened to the broadcast in a while, you've picked a great week to jump back on. If you have, thank you so much. Today, we get to jump into a special story. I've been wanting to do this for the longest time. We're going to tell the story. Well, I think Brother Austin is going to tell the story of how he came to be where he is today. I really don't want to let the cat out of the bag. You're going to have to tune in. You're going to have to put your thinking cap on. You're going to have to come with some open ears. We're having a great time this week. But before we jump into that, Brother Austin, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm excited about being on the broadcast and being able to reach out to all the different listeners. Thank you so much for tuning in. That is a blessing. We don't count that. We don't take that for granted. And we're excited that you would take time this morning to be a part of the broadcast today and listen into my story.
Absolutely. And one of the fun things about this broadcast is I'm realizing, I think I also made mention or made it sound like it was this morning. We're actually recording this morning, but it plays on 105 different, well, at least 105 different stations. I think we picked up one or two recently, and it plays all over the world, this broadcast does. And so I'm very excited for so many people of different ethnicities, of different nationalities, from probably 35 to 40 different states in the United States and multiple countries outside of the U.S. to hear the story that we're going to jump into today. Just to give you a little sneak preview, Brother Austin was adopted. And now, for some of you out there, you say, oh, that's interesting. Well, what does that have to do with me? Well, there's going to be some phenomenal application points that I think you're going to want to tune in for throughout this week, and it might spill over into next. With Austin and I were talking just a moment ago, and we want to make sure we leave no stone unturned, no detail uncommunicated, and so you're going to want to be with us. We're going to have a great time. But before we jump into that, what's going on at BTI these days? I think we're running a mile a minute. We are staying busy would be a word for it. We got some different things going on. We're working on some different technological endeavors, some new track designs, some different things like that. Let's start here. We're just giving a little preview for this week, but also, what's your favorite track design you've worked on over the past, 3, 4, 5, 6 months? We've really rolled out probably between custom tracks and new additions. We've rolled out 3 or 4 different new tracks recently. What's your favorite new one so far?
That's a difficult question for me. I think that the first thought that came to mind, and I just don't want to think more about it, I just want to answer, is the one that I'm working on. Whatever track that is that I'm working on, that's my new favorite. And I don't know if talking about the most recent track we've designed, if that's applicable or not, if that's okay. But I'm excited. I am very, very, very much excited about that one. And that is I just really feel that Lord's going to use that track in a special way. I really like the Warrior track that we just got back in house now and in stock. And I've had the privilege to pass that out personally several times, almost without fail. When I've handed that out to the opportunities that I've had have been men and women who are in their military garb, soldiers for our country, to see the somberness that comes on their face, that we would have the care and concern for their fellow soldiers for dealing with PTSD. And I really think that's going to be a greatly used track for our military and for our servicemen and women who serve this country, not just the military, but also our police officers and firefighters and paramedics, things like that. Those individuals who put their life on the line for us and deal with some very, very traumatic situations. I'm very thrilled about that one as well.
Absolutely. And I remember you telling me specifically how you use that gospel track. And for people wondering, what are you talking about? The Warrior track. Well, that's a gospel track that Austin did the design work on. I had the privilege of co-writing it with a Marine Corps buddy of mine. He was burdened. It was his burden. He had a burden for his compatriots, his comrades in armed forces, LEO fire, those dealing with PTSD. The stats we hear, and it could be worse than this, that at least 22 veterans commit suicide every day. And think about that number. I mean, that's a staggering number today. That means yesterday, 22. The day before, 22 on average. And think about how many of those probably entered a Christless eternity. Remember that Christ gives a peace that passeth all understanding, and though Christians understand this, we're not going to open this can of worms, but can Christians commit suicide? Yes, they can. But I'll tell you this, those that have Christ, those that know him, that count him as their king, they have a reserve of strength that those without Christ do not. And the story of David in the Bible, there are multiple occasions in the book of Psalms and throughout the Bible that David is referenced, that you could make the case, the strong case, that David was dealing with things akin to PTSD. And so this gentleman and I, we wrote this gospel tract, and while we were thinking about it, before I think pen had gone to paper, before fingers had gone to keyboard, the thought that I had was, here's a thought about how to give this gospel tract out. Say something like this. You may not need this. You're handing it to a veteran, handing it to a uniformed serviceman, someone with a Korean War hat on, a Vietnam War hat on. Say, hey, you may not need this, but you probably know someone that does. And I want Brother Austin to share exactly how, because there's so many of you listening right now, you say, I don't know how to use gospel tracks. Well, I want to give you a very precise example. Speaking of, before you do, Brother Austin, I was in Walmart 2 days ago, and a gentleman in one of those scooter wheelchairs, one of the motorized ones, he drove by me, and he had a Vietnam hat on. And it took me a second to register. You see normally a black background with a little gold filigree type looking stuff. And I just gave him a nod, just an acknowledgement. He was on the other side of the aisle. Like, there was stuff in between us. And he nodded back. And I thought for a second, I said, number one, I need to tell that guy, thank you for your service. Number two, I need to give him, I happen to have in my pocket some of the Warrior. And I tracked him down. I said, hey, sir, I didn't want to surprise him. I kind of came from the side and said, hey, sir, talked to you just a few moments and said, hey, I want to thank you for your service, but could I give you something to read? You might not need this, but you probably know someone that does. And that's how I use it. But Brother Austin, I think you talked to a female veteran. You talked to some other folks as well. How exactly did you use it? When you said that somberness, talk about that for just a moment.
Yeah, so we were down in Florida at a camp meeting, and the hotel we were staying at, it was right near an Air Force base. They had a lot of different soldiers that were coming in for training, and so they would stay at this hotel. So every morning there was multiple men and women in their uniform in the lobby getting ready to leave for the day. The one gentleman I spoke with, he was a black man. He was standing there getting his coffee. Once he finished getting his coffee, I was getting my coffee, and I said, hey, can I give you something? I said, a friend of mine wrote this gospel track. We put it together. Or this, I didn't even say gospel track. I just said, a friend of mine wrote this. And it's dealing with, talking about soldiers struggling with PTSD. And I said, I don't know. I said, you may not need this, but you may know someone who does. That man looked at me, and I could see his eyes moisten a little bit. I don't know if it was something he was struggling with, or if he knew with the stats the way they are, he may have known someone who's taken their life because of struggling with it and couldn't get through it. It went from a jovial, getting his coffee, having a great day, to just almost a moment of silence, if you will. And he gingerly took it and was looking at the Warrior, at the track, and then looked back up, and just with the most sincerity I think I've ever really experienced, he just said, thank you so much. And same thing with there was a female officer as well. She had I'd come out the elevator, she was walking by, And no, we were in the elevator together. That's right. We came down in the elevator. We're walking out, and I said, "Ma'am, could I give you something?" And went through the whole, basically that exact same speech, and said, I don't know if you need this, but maybe someone does. Maybe someone does. And same exact thing. Just from a howdy, chatty in the elevator, just small talk, to just a stillness and a somberness of and what I feel is, one, they may have known someone who had taken their life. Mm-hmm. 2, they may be battling with that themselves. 3, they may know someone who's battling with that right now. But I really feel, too, that the sincerity and somberness was from that, someone recognizes the situation that we're dealing with and has enough care that they'd put something together to try to help. I don't know their background. I don't know their religious background. I don't know if they were Christian or atheist. But I could see that their genuine gratitude for someone taking the time to just simply care for what they've and many of their friends go through, and it really is. I really feel it's a definitely a track for a specific purpose. But I love that Bible Tracts does that. We have all of our tracks lead to the salvation plan and lead to someone trusting Christ, and I love that aspect of our tracks. But I really enjoy the fact that we have specific tracks for specific purposes. That one is really probably one of my new favorites.
Amen. Well, you may be asking, okay, what do you want from me? I want some of those gospel tracks. What's it going to cost? Well, here's the cool thing at BTI. We give them away for free. That means you can get them today. Well, they probably won't show up in your mailbox today, but you can go to BibleTractsInc.org. That's BibleTractsInc.org, and you can order some of that gospel track, The Warrior, today. For our opportunity, the responsibility we have, but the opportunity we have to show, as Austin just said, great word, that we care. You may say, what if I might be embarrassed if someone says they don't want it. Understand, you have the opportunity to confront someone about their eternal soul in the most compassionate and kindest way, and to leave them thinking that person cares. That person cares. Yeah. If you'd go to BibleTractsInc.org, order some of those gospel tracks called The Warrior today. Now you have to join us tomorrow. You cannot miss what's coming up. We're going to have a great time with Brother Austin. He's going to be in studio with us again tomorrow. I hope you have a great day for His glory, for God's glory, but I really hope that you'll join us again tomorrow. You're not going to want to miss anything coming up here as we hear Brother Austin Merriott's adoption story.
Thank you for joining us today for Bible Tract Echoes, a ministry of Bible Tracts Incorporated. If you would like to receive a free sample packet of all of our tracts, you can contact us by calling 309-828-6888. That's 309-828-6888. Our mailing address is P.O. Box 188, Bloomington, Illinois, 61702. A faster way to contact us is to go to our website at BibleTractsInc.org. That's BibleTractsInc.org. There you will find more information about our ministry and details on how you can support Bible Tracts Incorporated. Thanks for listening, and may the Lord richly bless you as you serve Him.